All right. We are here. We are definitely here. And we're going to make a little sound. I hope so. Let's see what we can groove here. We would like to get a sound. Hope that you all can hear it. You got your little bit of C and G, or actually C and F. We want to start off a little prayer and meditation. We're going to talk about some decrees today, and we're also going to look forward to commencing a little further about dreams. So we're about to hop in here, get everything lined up, and then we will commence. It's about 5:03 p.m. I'm wearing my shades. I'm feeling much better. My eyes are a little red from allergies, but nonetheless, I'm looking pretty good. So we are going to get started in a second. I know someone just buzzed me. Let that person know that I'm in here. Good. Alrighty. Glad you can hear it. We're going to tone throughout. We're going to do some meditation with some tones. So, and that's going to help lock in a vibration as we work today. So happy that my spiritual brother and sister, Mike and Marie, gifted me with these tuning forks. I've been looking to use sound in my program for quite some time, and I have a auto harp, which is a flat harp. As soon as I get some brand new strings, I'm going to be stroking that across here as well. Plus, I have a book here. One of the places that I'm studying with, before I release this prayer, I want to mention this. The late Dr. Paul Leon Masters. Got to go this way, I guess. This gentleman right here. Last week I talked about Reverend Ike, who passed on in 2009. This gentleman here passed on right after his 81st birthday in the month of January of this year. He's the founder of the International Metaphysical Ministry, the University of Metaphysics, as he calls it, and the University of Sedona. And it's just really, he brings all of the teachings together of New Thought, which is unity, and also the science of mind in his day. And his institute school is still running. It's 57 years strong. I believe he got started with it, and maybe longer than that. He got started with it back in 1955 out in around Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, California. So I'm a student in the distant program, and I'm going to, just got this book today. I'm going to pull out an excerpt and read just a little bit of it so that we really understand how things actually flow to us in more ways than one. And so it's the beauty. I'm just going to pick something to read. I might do it once a month or twice a month. I don't know yet. But through divine power and by divine grace, may all of you who have the pleasure of tuning in today to this program, may you find yourself being blessed by everything that you hear here today. I'm looking forward to share a lot of insight with you. Whether you get a chance to be here in the chat room and listening at the same time, or you're just not in the chat room but you're viewing it live, or You're coming back a little later and viewing the program, as well as going over to my YouTube channel, Circle of Grace 1. And so I am here to seed information into your life that you can readily use right off the bat. You don't have to wait for it to flourish on a completely different level, but it comes to you nonetheless so that you can really be involved with the information. Now I'm going to have to sip a little bit of water. Amen, and so shall it be. I'm definitely learning when you're here in the Southwest, you better be drinking some water. You better be hydrating yourself because things do happen. All right. We're going to talk about a decree. And I'm going to utilize the decree as if it is a meditation. Now, the one we did the last time was on spiritual readiness. And I want to take us into one where we are in attunement with ourselves. So just before I do that, I'm going to make sure my phone is in the low position. And I didn't ask you, Marie and Mike, did you get the email? I believe I sent this spiritual readiness decree out the other day to you. I had to actually retype it and send it out. If you didn't get it, let me know. I'm going to take you. I'm not going to so much teach this one, but I think we should take it like a meditation. How about that? And then I could tune you all the way through it. We just had a little bit of the C and F vibration, and I want to give you something to move with. And this B tone is what I'm going to use. Just want you to take that tone. Okay. Okay, that's not really giving me the tone, but here's the B tone. And as you take that B tone in, this is a universal decree for spiritual alignment and attunement. We know the B Hertz tone is good for the crown chakra, and it helps open the crown chakra up. So as we open the crown chakra, and many of us have our chakras open anyway, it's going to allow us to receive it and let it work with us. This real alignment and attunement can be used at any time, preferably on a daily basis. You'll be able to feel it and know that you are in the grids of light and within the mind of God, for this is truly a remembrance. This is how it opens up. Now I'm going to cause you to interject your name. And you only have to do it once, but if you want to, every time you hear me say, I hereby, or I see and decree, or I pray and affirm, you could also insert your name then. Through divine power and by divine grace, I say your name. Remember who I am, according to my divine nature in action here and now. Every step that I make is purposely done for my remembrance of my perfect and whole connection, in accordance with the divine laws of the universe, within the heart of God. Therefore I, you can say your name here, now pray and affirm that I am, let me say that again, I now pray and affirm that God and I are infinitely one. As I know and remember this truth, that I am in me now, I am the Kaaba of the Kabbalah. I am the Merkaba. I am fire of fire, air of air, water of water, and earth of earth. I am the pure spirit of God's own grace in my life here and now. I hereby decree that as Mother Earth shifts, I do also according to my DNA. And the Holy Spirit within me is my commander called I am. I, like my great ancestors, the Aboriginals, can hear the clarion call and understand. I hereby decree, and it shall be a great desire to stay in alignment and attune myself to the heart and mind of God and all of the galaxies within God. All of my chakras, meridians, nadis are in line, aligning at all times. I see, decree, and it shall be that I am within me can hear the tune, the songs of God, angels, and all of creation of light flow through me as I am, which is the name of God, makes all things possible as I am totally supported by the universes. And notice I say universes. So I want to crown chakra and the heart chakra together. The F tone is the heart and the B tone is the crown. Take it in as the songs of God and angels and all of creation. Of light flow through me as I am. Makes all things possible as I am, totally supported by the universes. Amen. Just take this decree as a meditation. Just feel empowered and just take a moment as that shall rest with you. As soon as I get the right base for my crystal bowl, I'm going to start working with that as well. Here is a 120 hertz C, which is probably just 1/100th of a tone higher than the sun's hertz vibration, which I was told is about 127.7 hertz. This is 128, so 127.7 is a near C beneath middle C, and this is the C that's one octave beneath middle C. Just want you to take in the sound. This is the sun as it vibrates. Take it in as the great central sun, your home. Excuse me. What I'm going to put together is an actual base, which all of these will sit into, and then I can ring them individually with mallets and bring the tone out even further. One of the things, and I'm going to save the mystical insights for the end of today's program, there's some things I'm looking to bring forward, and I'm more excited than anything else that I'm able to get this information out to you. One of the things I want us to always remember is that we are definitely in control of ourselves. And if we're not feeling like that, we ought to start working toward that, doing whatever we can to take charge of our own lives. Now, we have to work on it all the time, health-wise, emotional health, mental health, physical health, and spiritual health. And often when we're going through situations, we used to say when we were children, I caught a cold. Or I caught a cold. And yeah, you can catch germs from other people. But right now on the planet, we're having this releasing that is going on. A continuous process. And it's been going on for millions and billions of years. It just didn't start yesterday. It just didn't start in 2012. A lot of it kicked back as far as 1989, 1987. 1987 was the harmonic conversion conferences that were going on around the country, the United States and abroad in the UK. And all of this information is now coming to the surface like cream, a frothy broth or cream on beer or on a soup, or people heat up milk and the curdle comes to the top. Well, all of this stuff, all of these elements are beginning to rise to the top within us. So our body is releasing a lot of things. So even with the little bit of stuff that I went through, and it lasted for about 20 days, it was wicked. However, I'm feeling better for it, and I'm glad it happened then, and it's not going to happen like during the summertime when it gets even warmer. It's not going to happen in the winter time. It's not going to happen in the fall time. It happened now. So I can make all the proper adjustments to move forward for myself. And as you move up in this physical age with a physical body, I don't intend to give in to what we call old age. Every now and again I'm feeling the quirks of it, maybe a stiffness in a finger, a toe, and a knee. But I'm not really playing into that. I just know that's a part of the things that are being released up out of my system, and in a matter of moments they will all be gone. We are having our consciousness raised. We're having our physical constitution stretched, appearing stretching to limits, but really unlimited. For all I know, maybe my index finger was a little sore on my right hand. Maybe the universe is connecting me with my higher self, and we're stretching that a little bit more. So there's a lot of things that are going on, and we have to kind of allow ourselves to do the necessary research so that we can begin to familiarize ourselves with these conditions. These are really conditions, or symptoms as they call them, of ascension process that's going on. And we are constantly having ourselves somewhat tested. And it's not always something outside of ourselves that's testing, it's ourselves. It's the soul consciousness that has created a remembrance, that has planted a seed of awareness that starts to blossom at a certain time in our life. And it causes us to slow down and look at what's really going on. For those of you that may have listened to my Blog Talk Radio, The Age of Remembrance, yesterday, the little short program, even though I was running late, I still got the seeds out. And it was called The Best You Can Be Is to Be You. The best you can be is to be you. And that was about learning how to be authentic with yourself, real with yourself, transparent with yourself first. or as people say, a mirror reflection, seeing all of that in and around yourself, then allowing yourself to move to a whole nother level. So when we allow ourselves to move to a whole nother level, we release a layer, like an onion skin. We're peeling away a layer, one layer at a time. And that layer is housed with a lot of degrees of light, a lot of falsehoods, a lot of misbeliefs, miscalculations. We have things there that have to come out, have to be released. We can't continue to hold on to them. So, and people, yeah, we're worrying about the chemtrails overhead. We're worrying about conspiracy theories going on. We're worrying about the UFOs here, and we're worrying about the aliens here, these higher races here. Man, these things have been here for billions of years ahead of us. And the more we delve into ourselves, the more we find out there is some validation going on here. There is some connections, or we wouldn't be tuning into the frequency. But at the same time, we know that there's people popping out energy different ways, trying to sidetrack you, trying to make you think there's some kind of invasion going on, trying to make you think the space brothers and sisters are upset with you. There are some who are upset with themselves. There's a lot of things going on. But we have to utilize the tools of personal transformation. And it's always been the prayer and the meditation. Chants and mantras, symbols, yantras, mudras, hand symbols. Using whatever we can to trigger a remembrance of who we are. And then doing various physical movement to align yourself with the earth. Maybe you working with a garden. Maybe you're a farmer. Maybe you're just a plain gardener. Maybe you're a landscaper. Landscapers are really in tune with the earth, because what are they doing? They're digging up the earth. They're on their hands and knees. They're in the soil all the time. They're digging around plants. They're watching out. They don't get the thorns from a rose bush. Neither do they want to disturb a hornet's nest, and all of these things. They're in touch, just like a beekeeper, in touch. But you got to have a certain type of awareness, a certain type of characteristics to go with that. There's a whole lot of things that go into that you have to know, so that whatever you're doing in that particular field that you find yourself in, or that you've allowed yourself to go into, you're always getting on with it. You're always learning something new. So whether you're an artist, a dancer, choreographer, a symphonic orchestra conductor, you're an electrician, you're dealing with some form of energy. There isn't anybody on the planet who's not dealing with energy, either directly or indirectly. Indirectly could mean you've got an instrument or tool in which to observe the current of energy as it is, or you are an observer. You're not holding on to any equipment. You're a part of the audience, observing energy as its best, as it's flowing through you, its ebb tides, high and low tides, its peaking points, but you're paying attention now. So I want to bring that up so that we get a very clear understanding that we are more responsible than we think, or more responsible than we know. But we have to begin to exercise the knowing part, what we have acquired, because in order to get more information in, you got to let go of something. Just like if you got a glass of water and it's already filled to the brim, you can't put any more water in it. It'll just overflow, right? It'll just spill out. You don't want to waste anything. So you've got to consume and ingest a certain amount of things so that you can bring more things in. And hopefully whatever you're bringing in is making the body better, making the mind better. As we get older, we should get sharper in our memory. As I say, have a sharp wit. Not only a sharp wit, great humor, more flexibility to our bodies, in the ligaments, but we're going to feel some aches and pains because you're going through other current, electromagnetic current all the time. If you think of it, this mobile Android SI phones, they give off a lot of frequency. Even when they're shut off, they give off frequency. Computer is another thing, giving off radio frequency. Microwaves, people use them and they shouldn't use them too much, but they use them. That's giving off a frequency. Radios and TVs giving off a frequency. Cordless phones giving off a frequency. And the amazing thing is, it's running through your auric field, which is loaded with frequencies. So we always have to be aware of these things that we have going on, so that we're not burdened and overwhelmed by them, so that we don't blow our own circuits out. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to take in as much as we can, receive as much as we can, and then let it go. Radiate all of that energy out. And so, thinking about radiate, because I just went through a spiritual alignment and attunement, I found something here that was written or channeled up in 2008 by myself. And it was something that was just as basic and essential. Now we're talking about 8 years ago. It's called I Radiate the Light of God. The light of God's unconditional love is always within me. I'm not saying it's out there in the time-space continuum, out there in the universe beyond you. I'm saying it's inside. It's within me, meaning within you. That's the light of God's unconditional love. That's the truth. That's what we're talking about. The word degree, D-E-G-R-E-E, the word degree means an increment of light. Means it can be measured. So, if it's an instrument of light that can be measured, then we're talking about infinite light of God's unconditional love. It's not bound. The light of God's omnipotence is always within me. The word omnipotence, all powerful. Remember, there used to be a car by Dodge called the Omni. And that car was something that you had to engage in, you had to utilize, you had to be able to move forward. I remember daily that God resides in me. I remember every moment of the day that the Spirit of God is in me. I am the spiritual vision of God. I am peace and calmness. I am joy, balance, and harmony. I am unconditional love, and I am vibrant health divine. My entire being speaks and radiates these divine attributes of God always and always. Amen, amen, amen. We have to remember we're giving off energy, and everything around us is giving off energy. How many of you out there have heard of, I think it was a German scientist who came across in his time, I believe it was back in the 30s or the 40s, and his last name was Curly, Kirli. And, usually when somebody invents something or finds something, they name it after. Like Hertz is probably a person's last name. More than likely. Hertz, right? Hertz, Hertz frequencies. Schumann frequencies. Gentleman's last name was Schumann. So, Curly was a person who figured out how to take pictures of the energy field of living animated things, such as especially plants. And you notice plants gave off a frequency of light, radiating light. Therefore had a camera called a Kirlian photography kit. It was usually just a box you can stick your hand in on a Kodak plate, and when you stuck your hand into the Kodak plate, it allowed you to have the energy electromagnetic energy coming off of your hand, off of your fingertips, and have it recorded onto the Kodak plate. And there were electrical wires hooked up to the plate, so it wouldn't give you a shock, but you could feel the buzz of the electricity. And because you're using the finger pads of your fingers, the nerve endings that run into your fingertips are shooting out this electromagnetic field called your aura. That Edgar Casey coined it, your aura. So once that was taken, you could pull the person's hand out of the box, a wooden box, out of the black sleeve inside the box, and just wait. And as the picture would begin to develop, you could see where the finger pads were on the screen, and you begin to see the radiations of light, what they call the corona of the fingertips. So it allowed you to realize you can actually measure, and in this case record, the frequency that's coming off of your body. It's also been proven by scientists in the fields of biology and so forth that when they could see the light auric field around a plant, then they would snip a leaf off the plant, off the stem, and take the picture. It's still there. The same, which is way of saying the same thing as something happened to your thumb. You lost your thumb because the thumb is a part of the energy field, the outward expression of your body. Your thumb would show itself, an image of it. Even if there was like one joint missing, one or two joints on your fingers, it would show that the joint's missing, but it would show a radiation of light. This is happening all the time. We are aware of this all the time. Now, this is just my opinion. The sad part is that scientists always want to test everything. And I can understand that because they want to make sure there's no somebody creating something that's not real. Someone trying to, get over you with some real or false information. But there are some things that can't even be tested. I'm quite sure one day someone who's a part of the skeptic groups that Amazing Randy the Magician put together, one day there's going to be somebody that their frequency is going to be so high that no matter what the test is, they can control the test and make it so that the test doesn't work. They're going to control it to the extent that whatever object is in the box won't be there. They're going to make it so that the box that's carrying the instrument will just fade out. There are people already on the planet who do that stuff. Already do that stuff. They're not well known at. They're not, celebrities in their field. But they already have acquired that ability to do that. So, I just say that to say that energy is real. We know energy is not fictitious. We call it energy, we call it light. We call it whatever we have to call it because we're trying to describe what it is. If you've ever done any form of martial arts, external or internal martial arts, you feel the chi flow. You feel it through your body, and you feel it in your bloodstream, and you feel it in your muscles, and you feel it in your tendons. Why? Because your body starts to heat up. The more relaxed you become, the more heat that gets generated in the body. So it's happening all the time. It's happening all the time. Now, what I want to do is, so I don't forget, we're at 5:36 p.m. We got plenty of time here. We have an hour and a half. I wanted to, last week I talked about, the time of day, the element in the, as in natural elements, what that meant, what the time of day meant in the dream, weather conditions, the four seasons, and I'll review a little bit of that at a time. But one of the things I wanted to really jump into, because people always want to know, when they describe a dream, more than likely, and this is, I would say, about 70-75% of the time, there's going to be people in the dream. Whether you know them or not, there's going to be people in the dream. There's going to be some subtle things that you don't pick up right away, like the color of the clothing, the texture of the clothing, the weather outside. You just may know that it's morning, noon, or evening, or nighttime, but you may not yet pay attention to the weather. You may not pay attention, maybe there was a slight wind breeze that you experienced in the dream. Or if it was a high tide, was it actually feeling more like a flood? There's colors, there's numbers that mean something, that suggest something. There's people of all kind of ages. There are animals and gems and minerals and stones that come in, and you could look at them as being somewhat of the totem guide energy in the dream. Then there are modes of transportation that pop up. And the modes of transportation are very, very significant. And I'm going to start right there. If you are having a dream and you are experiencing that you could see yourself, because I didn't mention that last week. Let's say you see yourself in the dream like you're sitting in a movie or you're watching TV. Then that dream is more like what it is. It's a dream, and it's a little bit more symbolic than anything else. However, I like to use this term. You are in your quote-unquote dream body. In other words, you're experiencing the dream because your 5 physical senses are thrown into the dream. You're in the dream body because you don't see your physical face, but you can see all the other parts of your body. You only see your physical face if you can catch a reflection of your face in a mirror or in a window or something, or in a pool of water, a body of water. You look and you can see your face. So that means you're in the dream body, and therefore everything comes into play. Your emotions, how you feel at any moment, you're like, it's in living color to you. It's happening. Well, that tells you that you get a chance to see if it's a lucid dream, meaning that you're wide awake in the dream, knowing that certain things that you see aren't real anyway, never would take place in your waking state, such as a boat, a canoe, someone, rowing a canoe on a street that's dirt or asphalt or concrete, and they're able to move the boat. You don't see any other means. Well, you wouldn't see that in your waking state. So that's like lucid dream. You wake up and you realize, something's not right here. Something's amiss. Some things are real, some things are illusions. But you could also have the experience where everything does feel real to you, and then you are waking up and you're seeing that, but your body is still asleep. So therefore, you are consciously having a dream. You are having a lucid experience. And when you do reawaken from that dream, it could be a vision perhaps, but you can reawaken from the dream, and let's say it had a negative experience, and it's directly related to something that you're dealing with in everyday life. Maybe you work for somebody, or you work side by side, or you're a partner in a business with somebody, or you're just dealing with some other personality in your life, and you normally don't get along with this person. Then you could take the dream as it repeats itself and change the outcome if you could cause yourself to be lucid within the dream again. If you could call yourself to be lucid within the dream again, then you stand a very good chance of changing the outcome of the dream, so that when you awaken from the dream, you can, in your waking state, see the markers that represent the dream and then make the shift and then make the change. These things, these dreams, are tools that allow us to overcome, to transform, to uncover, to recover, regain something, and then to what? Be released from whatever the issue is, and then magnetize ourselves with something better to take place, or cause ourselves to make the right decision, the proper decision to get the proper answers in our lives. So that's the one thing I didn't mention last week that I wanted to bring in. See, that you can be watching yourself, or you can be in the dream body just like you are in your waking state, having the same experience. There's a difference. So what about if you had modes of transportation? Be it a train. Now pay attention now. Car is one mode. Doesn't matter, 8-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 4-cylinder car. And train, car, train, bus. We might as well put in there SUV or minivan or Hummer, airplane, subway, actual, you want to say yacht or cruise ship. Now, that's about 7 right there. Notice each one of those 7 can take more than one person. So that means you can have many passengers or one passenger, and you will have someone who's in control of directing that particular item. Now, if you're not the pilot of the plane, if you're not the driver of the train or the car or the bus, then something tells you that you're not in control. You're not the one making the decisions. Here's how you would know which position. Or you may be allowing this with your knowledge to take place, or you're absolutely in shock that you're not in control. That you know that someone is doing it all, and you're not doing anything. All you got to do is, if you can remember in the dream, were you a passenger? Were you a passenger? And if you were, then check that. Now, were you in the front seat with the driver? Or were you in the back seat? And if you were in the back seat, were you directly behind the driver or behind the front passenger? All these things mean something. See, if you're not driving or flying the plane, or driving the train, the bus, the car, or the subway, then you're a passenger in the front seat, then you're allowing that person, you gave that person permission to take charge of your life. If you're in the back seat, and we all heard those phrases, backseat driver, right? They're commanding everything from where they're at. But what about, again, the person is driving or flying, and you're in the back seat? That means you have very little control. And you have absolutely no control if you're a passenger in the back seat and you're sitting behind the driver. And you have absolutely no control. If you're sitting behind the passenger seat, which means to the right side, or if you're in the UK, it's to the left side. But if you're sitting in the back seat behind the front passenger, you're like, think of it this way, there's 3 positions now. The front seat passenger, sitting in the back seat behind the driver, you have no say-so, no control. If you're sitting in the front, you're sitting to their right. Let's say here in the States, The driver is to the left and you're sitting to the right. So if you're sitting to the right, that means you're conscious that you gave someone this power of authority over you. But if you're sitting in the back seat behind the passenger, then that's more like you did give it away, but you can make the change. You see, you can get out, you can stay in that position, or you can get out and ask to be in the front, or you can get out and ask to drive. But you definitely don't want to be behind the driver in the dream. So keep that in mind. When there's more than one passenger and driver, where are you? Where are you? When you're being in a collective group, where are you in the order? Are you very close to the front, or you're in the back? Or are you in the middle somewhere? All these things are like hints that you're not where you want to be yet. Now, how about the items that only could take a passenger in you? Like a motorcycle or a bicycle. Unless you're riding on those bicycles where you're sharing in the pedals. Then you're both pedaling together, and the person in the front can't go any faster or any slower than you can. You've got to do it in unison. But you get to have some sense of control if you're in the rear, and you definitely got some sense of control if you're in the front. But at least the person behind you can say, hey, let's go to the right, hey, let's go to the left. Why? Because they're pedaling also. Now on a motorcycle, a little different. You're on the back and you're behind the person, so you've got to follow their instructions. If they tell you I'm going around a corner, don't lean to the right, I got to lean to the corner, you lean a little bit to the left in the opposite direction, but nonetheless you just hang in there and hang on to me. All these things point to some sense of control. But at least if it's a bicycle or a motorcycle, you dare to be different. Out here in the Midwest, Southwest, we got hot air balloons. So you're not the pilot, but if you were, you dare to be different. And if you're the passenger, you still dare to be different. Now let's go back to buildings. What if we have buildings? Old buildings like houses, apartment buildings, warehouses, old shops or stores. Anything that's a construction. And again, cosmetically, how was it done? Was it made out of wood? Made out of dirt bricks? Made out of concrete? Does it have steel running through the building? All those things will give you additional information later, but you just want to get the general information first. So, here's some general information. If in the dream you come across an old building or old house, this represents old ways of thinking, which means you could be stuck in the past. You're not willing to open your mind to something new coming to you, or to be more creative in your thinking. That's old buildings, be it a house or building, warehouse, whatever, old ways of thinking. So the opposite of that would be what? New buildings, which then represent new thinking, new thought pattern, new philosophy. Now the number of stories or floors can be the level of one's consciousness. So in the old building or the new building, you're in the basement. Then you know you're in the basement. You know, we already know what the basement, MENT, is mental, base, bottom. So maybe are the steps in the basement sturdy enough for you to climb up or go down? Are they creaking, look like they're going to fall apart? Maybe the foundation is going to fall apart. Maybe the path that you're on is going to fall apart. So we have to start looking at these things. The floors or levels, number of stories up, is the level of one's consciousness. So that means if you know a little numerology and you're looking at a building that's 60 stories high, 60 levels, 6, deals some sense of family. Is dealing with some sense of love and compassion should be involved. Feeling a sense of protectiveness. But let's say you're on the second floor, that's partnership and arrangements. Well, you're on the eighth floor, that's something of the past, elders, relatives, people older than you are. Same with 4 and 7. But 4, 7, and 8 are some, very uncanny, imbalanced things that can be going on. So you're looking at numerology rearing its head there to like a key to assist you where there's a basement. Basements also represent the subconscious side. Basements are the subconscious side of you, as well as you being unconscious. If there's no light on there, you're feeling unconscious. You don't know anything. But there's a dimmer of light in there, then you have something to work with. You can find your way and get more light to come in. So you're dealing with the subconscious side. And then the attics. What usually go in the attics, just like basements, we put memories there. We put things that connect us to our life. We find them in the basement. We find them in the attic. 9 times out of 10, though, and this is when I was growing up, we had an attic too. Whatever we placed in the attic, that was something we wanted to keep. And whatever we placed in the basement, we were going down there. Yeah, we were going to keep it, but we would use it occasionally, like celebrating certain holidays, whether it was Easter or Christmas, you name it. Then we had those things stored in the basement. The things that we had in the attic, those are things we didn't want anybody else to see. Whether it was connected to us with schools or toys or our parents, whatever, they had their things up there, or something special to the family. You don't want anybody seeing it or touching it. You placed it in the attic. And our attic wasn't that accessible either. Because we had to go to the second floor in the house, toward the back of the house, where there was a big master bedroom back there, and there was a bathroom to the left. And it was just before you got right in that area, right where you walked to make your left to go to the bathroom and to go into the master bedroom up there. You had the little hatch-like door. And our parents, they had a padlock on it, so you just couldn't go up there. You had to have the key, unlock the padlock. Now, you had to have a ladder to go up there. And we didn't have a ladder that would slide down because it wasn't sturdy enough. So what our parents used to do, they had 2 ladders. We'd take that ladder upstairs, or we had it in a utility closet. You go up the ladder, unhook it. Then when you go up there, then you could slide this ladder down. That could lock into place. And it was pretty sturdy. It could hold somebody who didn't weigh past 250 pounds. Then you can go up that ladder. And the opening was just wide enough for you to get up in there. So you couldn't be too bulky either. But you can go up and down the ladder. So our attics were for memories, special items, treasures. And think of attic. So it's up. So it's in your head, right? Symbolic with your head. What do you have stored consciously that you're holding on to that brings memories, it evokes memories, good times, something that was of value to you in the attic? So higher consciousness is the attic. How about people? People are interesting. They show up in our dreams. Well, what about people? People are ideas. People represent attributes. People represent the do's and the don'ts. What to say, what not to say. What to do, what not to do. That's what people represent. So people are ideas. But if they're known people, meaning that you know who it is, either a relative, mom, dad, sibling, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, neighbor, co-worker, somebody you see in the supermarket that works at a supermarket or works in a bank, or your car mechanic. Known people can mean that this is a sense of comfort. They represent some sense of comfort in your life, something that you're okay with. They also suggest that by seeing someone known, that you have the opportunity to gain assistance, to be guided, and so that you can be successful in something that you're about to do. But here's the flip side. Maybe maybe somebody in there and they give you a hard way to go every time you see them. Maybe they're the bully, the passive aggressive bully. Maybe there's a cranky neighbor, a nasty person that you don't want to deal with. They're in your dream. Well, then there's an alarm. Watch out. Not that you could run across that person. Maybe you might. We're not saying if it's prophetic or precognitive yet. So what we're saying is that someone you don't get along with and they're in your dream is just a reminder to watch out for personalities like that. Because it could be someone else that you're dealing with that acts like someone else at your job or someplace that you don't get along with. Unknown people represent uncertainty. Unknown people represent uncertainty, some form of difficulty, or you're not sure what to do. See, it's an idea, but you don't know what to do with the idea yet because it's unknown to you. Which now means you have to figure out how it's in your life as a marker, how it can move you on to something better. Babies. Everybody likes to see babies in a dream. Man, I dreamed I was pregnant. The old southern way of pregnancy was they would see fish. Person's eating a lot of fish. That someone is about to give birth. I don't know how they came up with that. Those of us in this human form, we don't give birth to fish or other animals unless some weird scientist is out there trying to crossbreed and put genetic structures from different creatures together to create that. But that used to be the thing. People would see a whole egg in its shell. That was something that denoted like a birth or a pregnancy. The planting of a tree. Here's something. The planting of a tree. If it's a birch tree, a white birch tree, then it's a good idea that it represents birth and growth. But it means there's some process that's going on in your life where that is important to you. Trees in general represent a degree of sturdiness. Trees is the element of wood and the element of air. So it's not just earthy energy because it takes water, nutrients out of the soil, which also means water. It takes water into its body, into the trunk, into its branches, into its leaves. So it's more of an airy quality rather than more of a earthy quality. It's a quality unto itself. It's a conduit for energy, though. Now, here is the sun and the moon. All these things coming to mind. The sun and the moon. Sun gives light, but it's receiving its light also from some distant source. And then the sun also can radiate its light onto the moon. If the earth is in the way, then it's an eclipse. Or some other planet gets in the way, then it's an eclipse. But nonetheless, sun is radiating light. So we know that the moon is reflecting that light. So we're looking at yang force, solar energy, yin force, lunar energy. In any event, we see cycles, right? There are cycles that the sun is flowing through and that the moon is flowing through. Here's another thing. Suppose you, in the dream, you are aware that it's a waning moon. Energy releasing the emotions and finally letting go. The moon is waxing, going toward a full moon. Then you must build up your emotions. You must pay more attention to the emotions. The emotions have more power now. Even though it's yin force, lighter, not heavy energy, yet it's making its impact because it's moving toward a full moon. Solar eclipse. Whew, strong energy, and then you don't feel anything. And then you see the energy of the light again from the sun. That might be noting or pinpointing something else that you need to pay attention to. Because the sun is more steady light, and all of a sudden it's out, and then all of a sudden you see it again. So there's something amiss, something off. Even though the light is there to serve you, but it's off. Pay attention, ask questions. Now, babies. Babies represent new ideas, new philosophy, new concept. You ever hear people say, yeah, that's my baby. I got this new car. That's my baby. I got this business going. That's my baby. So that means it's new. Very new. So babies are new ideas, new events, new acquaintances. And also the baby can represent someone is being immature around you. So you have a baby and the baby's crying. So the person who's being immature, they're just trying to get your attention, right? So they can be in control of what's going on. They want all the attention on themselves. That's the crying baby. Numbers. Numbers in dreams can be associated with astrological planets, birthdays, personalities of a situation, and a time frame. To me, numerology is the shorthand of astrology. I kind of coined that phrase back in the mid-'70s when I was teaching at the old Tree of Life bookstore up in Harlem, New York. You know, where the jazz joints were jumping. The Harlem Renaissance was going on back there in the 20s, actually the roaring 20s, and going into the 30s, right after the Depression time and all of that. You know, WPA workers, public arts, grants were going on back then, and a lot of people, musicians and artists, made Harlem one of the fanciest spots. By day, hard-working communities. By night, the performers would be down on Broadway, and then they would come up to Harlem to play. You remember, if you ever see, I don't know why this is coming up, but you have to get it. If you ever know, look up on YouTube, Gene Krupa, Genekrupa. This guy, he was a great drummer. Used to drum all over, and especially in the vaudeville acts, and also he was down there on Broadway playing. But when he needed that deeper, heavier doom 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 doom, when he needed that, he went up there where Cab Calloway and Duke Ellington were up there in Harlem, and their drummers were playing that kind of rhythm. So a lot of people went from Midtown, downtown, to uptown into Harlem to be influenced by the music that they heard up there. So I just want to bring that out. See, different eras of time in dreams portray something else that's going on in your life. You might have an infatuation with the time of the Great Gatsby, which followed all of northern part of Long Island, Queens, into Long Island in the Great Neck, Little Neck, Great Neck areas. That was the time of the Great Gatsby. I remember reading the book on it. I said, I know what this is. This is North Shore. That's when people had a lot of money. In fact, look at the movie The Great Gatsby with Leo DiCaprio is his name. That young guy who he was in Gangs of New York too, which is also historical in its sense. But the Gatsby, The Great Gatsby, there was a book, and then that movie came out. But there was a book first, and man, we was required reading, but I enjoyed it. Great, because it talked about an era of time, and here I am not living far from it at that time. So numbers, before I get off the beaten track, numbers is the shorthand. Numerology is the study of numbers and their hidden influence in your life. As my buddy, master numerologist Lloyd Strayhorn would put it. And I said that numerology is the shorthand of astrology. The numbers 0 through 9 or 1 through 9 are derivative and expressing the astrological ruling planets in the sun signs. So numbers gave you astrological planets. Birthday numbers, like what numerical day are you born on? Are you born on the 9th, the 3rd, the 13th, the 16th, the 17th, the 26th, so forth. It all represents personality of a situation. Also a time frame. So for instance, you saw a bunch of 8s and 9s in your dream. 8 and 9 is 17, so it might tell you something happening around the 17th of that month, or coming up, or the 8th of that month, or the 9th of that month, or it may tell you 17 is the star card, major arcana card, 17th major arcana card in the tarot. Means at some point your dreams can be answered. At some point. It may denote the number 17 will tell you that the first 2/3 of some situation that you're going through is going to be difficult. But then it can work itself out. We used to say in numerology, as an observation, a person born on the 17th of any month, we could sometimes look at their lives and realize they've gone through a lot of difficulties. And when they get about between 31 and 36 is when they start to have a headway. Things start to make sense in their lives. They start taking charge. The events in their life change. So we get to see the changes. They can be very minute changes, or very gradual changes, very sporadic changes, or changes with impact. Bam, in your face kind of stuff. It almost feels like as they say, get hit with a ton of bricks. Something sidetracks you. That's numbers. So I can hear somebody saying, well, what are the numbers 1 through 9? 1 is representative of Leo. 2 is the moon. 4 is Uranus. 7 is Cancer. 6 is Venus. 5 is Gemini. 4 I said is Uranus. 3 is Jupiter. 8 is Saturn. And 9 is Mars. So Mars is a representative ruler of Aries and Scorpio. That's the number 9. 8 is the representative of Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn. 7 is the representative of Neptune, the ruler of Pisces. 6 is the representative of Venus, which rules Taurus and Libra. Okay, 2 planets, Taurus and Libra. 5 is Mercury, that rules Gemini and Virgo. Stop right there. Here's an example. Prince. Prince was born June the 7th. June the 7th, 1958. June, July, August. He was almost born 2 months. A little over 2 months. Yes, a little over 2 months and maybe 2 weeks older than Michael Jackson, who was born August 29th, 1958. They both are born in years that add to 5, 1958. Guys that be great communicators, great changers of music. Okay, guys who figured out how to own their own music catalogs and buy into other ones. Very brilliant when it comes to business. Neither one of them had a will. People had to fight in the courts over the will. Something that they shared. Gemini. Prince, born on the sign of Gemini, number 7. 7 attracts 2. Michael Jackson, born on the 29th. 2 plus 9 is 11. 1 plus 11 is 2. Born under the sign of Virgo, ruled by Mercury, number 5. Just see how the similarities are there. Very interesting. And both of them have some very pronounced eyes. You look at their eyes in photographs. They made sure that their eyes had that kind of strong, hypnotic kind of pull. And we can just go on and on and on. But let's stop there. They both transition before their next birthday coming up. That's something too you can look at. Okay, so numbers. And then, as we said here, 4 was Uranus, that rules Aquarius. 1 is Leo, the sun, that rules Leo. 2 is the moon, that rules Cancer. 3 is Jupiter, that rules Sagittarius. But look at the double numbers. The 1s and the 4s usually attract each other, so that's Leo and Aquarius, which they also attract 2 and 7 into the picture, which is Cancer and Leo. So these signs are following each other around. And then 5, Gemini and Virgo. 6, Taurus and Libra. See, 2. Something to give you 2 again. The 9 is let you looking at Mars. 9 is Aries and Scorpio. So look at all of that, bringing in all of those qualities, all those, so you can use that. You see, yeah, you saw the number 9 repetitive in a dream. Could be someone born on the 9th, or it could be telling you that something's coming to you on a Tuesday, which is ruled by Mars, or Aries and Scorpio people can pop in, or Sagittarian, which is ninth sign. That's just an example. Well, how about colors? Colors can suggest astrological signs as well, but it does get you to pay attention to emotions and temperament. Like, what kind of mood is somebody in? Pay attention to the colors. Colors can suggest chakra energy, as we call rainbow chakra energy, western chakra energy, or if you're into more of the Tibetan yogic style, then they're arranged differently. These are some of the short and general definitions, but you could always go further in your own way to delve into dreams. So let's say you're looking at gemstones. You get something like tektite in your dream, moldavite in your dream. Those things, we're talking about outer space stuff. Tektite by its surface, and moldavite, these things are meteorite qualities, essences coming from outside our atmosphere into this atmosphere. So it's an otherworldly kind of energy that you're looking at. Or you see malachite in your dream. Malachite has the black and the green swirled together. Very sensitive stone, but has been used to open up a way, to smooth out the rough points in business. Maybe thinking of new businesses. Or the quartz family, citrines, smoky quartz, clear quartz, amethyst. Lustrils are a part of that. And what does the quartz family? They amplify sound, amplify energy. Some of it is protective energy. So it depends on how much you know. Now, I've left out some things of nature here: running water, waterfalls. I talked briefly, just in general, about a tree. But how about flowers? So if you're into flowers and flower essences, that can be brought into to help you dissect your dream. And know that your dreams are dealing with something on the emotional plateau, something on the mental plateau, something on the physical and the material world, and the spiritual world. And then you could take it through the chakras at the same time. There's so many different ways that you can analyze a dream. So don't let the dream overwhelm you. You shouldn't. But one of the things you should do, you should maintain what? A dream journal. If you maintain a dream journal, then you get to see how your dreams speak to you. See, these things here are just universal. It's just universal meanings. These are things I discovered on my own in the early 70s, trying to amass it together. I mean, I've read all kind of dream books back then. There's some dream books that have over thousands of data in it. That's good. And then there's some where the authors didn't write the book, but they bought the rights to the material because it became public domain, and then they got out there and just copied this stuff. But they don't know anything about it, so they can't help you. If you ever see a book, a little thin book, and the author's name is Anna Riva, that person never existed. That's just a made-up name. Anna Riva does not exist. Made-up name on these books. And these old books that you would see in what they call the botanicas, the herb shops. We had somebody back there doing readings. I used to work in some of them in my earlier days. And we have all kind of books. And I tell you, people would flock to the book. I had a book called Dream for Success, and it was put out by the Parrish Company. Walter Parrish, or William Parrish. Parish. And Mr. Parrish, I met him one day. And what he did, he was smart. He bought the rights to republish this little blue book that had something like 250 pages in it. The book was about as thick as the book that I'm going to read from here in a minute. The book was as thick as this book, as you can see there. Thick as this book. This book here has approximately 205 pages. That dream book was a blue book, more like a royal blue book with white lettering, and the cover had been reprinted so many times that it was just looking blurry. What it was called Dream Book, Success Dream Book, and it had everything in there from metals to stones to birds to whatever. But the only thing was, he himself never researched the symbols. It was just a business. He had some money. He, not this gentleman, but Mr. Parrish at that time, William Parrish, I believe that was his name, but I know Parrish was the last name. He bought the rights on the book that was in the public domain. He didn't change anything. But you know what he used to do? He used to write on there revised. So what I did was, I bought 2 books where he said they were revised. And the next time I saw him, I said, Mr. Parrish, I didn't embarrass him or anything. I just went outside and says, this book says revised. But it isn't. I checked it word for word, page for page. It's the same exact information from 1969, 1949. Hasn't changed. You say revised. And I said, maybe you ought to say second, third, or fourth printing. That'd be better. Don't say revised because it's all the same. But the interesting factor is most of the information in there was accurate. Most of the information was accurate, but he hadn't a clue. All he did was just buy the rights to the book, went and republished it, and put it back on the market. And he would go around to all the botanicas, all called religious, spiritual shops, and sell his books. And he made good money on them books. And he had a couple of other books, 3 Wise Men, the 3 Kings, as they call it. That was another one, which also has some very good information. If you or somebody's into playing lottery numbers, or as they used to say back in the day, the handle. Those are the people that play the money, the last 4 digits, or the total track intake. They called it the handle, and people would bet on that to see what, at the end of the day, what the last 3 digits were or the last 4 digits were. And they would place, and I'm going to tell you this because this is how state lotteries came into being, because people had their own ways of playing these games based on how much money was made at the end of the day at the racetrack, or that's how OTB came into play. Why people go to the racetrack, get on their phone and say, I'm gonna bet on such and such and such a horse, and then everybody in the community is betting on such and such a horse. And when the police department got tired of trying to check these people with the numbers and number games, and then the state said, hey, you can't beat them. This stuff has been going on for so long. People come from the islands playing what they call the bolitas, playing all kind of number games. But why did people do it? Spirit's having me talk about it. Why did people do it? Why? It was their way of feeling in control, their way of circulating money in their own community. Some people did real good jobs. They controlled their communities to the point they became like the quote-unquote little gangster of the community. But most people did it. It was their way of winning a little money to help them pay their rent at that time, to get some food on the table for their family, put some money in their pocket, make them feel better. And then all of a sudden, state officials said, politicians say, hey, these people are making a lot of money. Let's get that money. Let's create the New York State Lottery, New Jersey State Lottery, North Carolina State Lottery. Let's pull all of that. I'm not trying to put a negative spin on the state. I'm just saying, that this is how your state lotteries came into being, because uh, between the so-called gangster in the community or the pimp in the community and anybody else of a negative nature, right up to someone of a positive nature, trying to make money, hustling. Created these games. Beyond that was card games. Until this day, is why you can go to any casino, play blackjack. People play blackjack for pennies. Shooting dice, then go on roulette tables. People shooting dice legally now for years. People were doing it on the street corners up against buildings. Kids cutting classes, shooting dice. Doing good at it too. Picking up some money, lunch money. It's amazing what the mind can do, what the mind can create. It's amazing. So I wanted to bring this to the forefront today. It is 6:22. So let me have a commercial break with some water. And we're going to make these shows so that you get some form of positive education going on. Last week we did Reverend Ike. We're going to bring him back at another time. I hear him in my brain rattling away. We're going to bring forth, and I think I can take my glasses off now. They don't look too bad. They look pretty good. We're going to bring something forth here from the late Dr. Paul Leon Masters, Mystical Insights, Knowing the Unknown. And this guy, I must say, if any of you ever remember the actress Della Reese, the late actress Della Reese, she was on a TV show, I believe it was back in the 80s. I don't know, it was the early 80s or the late 80s. She was on a program that used to come on Sunday nights. And it was called Touched by an Angel. And she was the one that represented the angel. Well, believe it or not, she studied this gentleman's teachings. And she did so well, as you know, in movies. Right down to Harlem Nights with Eddie Murphy and Red Fox and all them people. But before then, she played in a lot of movies and stage plays and things of that nature and other TV shows. And this guy, because she studied his teachings, she was selected a Lifetime Achievement Award from this gentleman. This guy is, I would say he's no joke, because he did his research. And when he first began it, it was the International Metaphysical Ministry. And he did a lot of research on positive thinking and how to get the mind in that zone. I had been following his works off and on for years, but never had a chance to set myself up in there and learn. But I used to see him advertise it in Fate magazines, in the classifieds, in a lot of magazine called Intuition, going way back. He was putting it out there. And then about 2003, the whole thing became more secure as before then, or became a 501(c), and now he was able to put out his own doctorate degrees, bachelor degrees, master's degrees, his own, through his own institute. And he explains right down in some of his material that I'm studying now, like how it all works. So I want to pick something here that, and what is unique about his book, this particular book, and I chose to buy it. One, because it just lets you know a great mind he was. And I want to pick out something here And I see it already. There was one called The Sacredness of Silence, but there's one here that's called Yin and Yang. Its mystical and power presence in and beyond physical life. So I'm going to read the Yin and Yang one first. And all I got to do is just go to page 49. So this guy, like many other people, New Age thought people, New Thought people, taking all of these spiritual things and allowing one to bring them into immediate fruition through discipline and practice. And again, we're going to touch upon something. Yin and Yang, its mystical and power presence in and beyond physical life. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to point out some of its strongest points. And how we could use it. So, this is not the whole thing, but I want to bring this out. Yin and Yang is you, it's me, it's everyone. It is one of the most profound communication symbols of mystical reality upon which the whole of existence exists. It can demonstrate a healing goal sought after in Oriental medicine, a philosophical concept to be contemplated, or a mystical symbol to be meditated on. Yin and Yang can indeed be a symbol of many things to many people. Visual symbols have been with mankind since the beginning of recorded history, yet the symbol of Yin and Yang has held attention to it in a far greater way than other symbols, and for good reason. Most symbols communicate lesser truths, while the symbol of Yin and Yang communicates life itself. If you are familiar with the Yin and Yang symbol, in most cases, is associated with what is called Taoism. Taoism. Ism means the ism, the way of. Tao. The Chinese would say Dao, because they don't have much T sounds, it's Dao. So Daoism. And in Taoism, which is the Buddhist construct of the martial arts and understanding how the mind works in conjunction with the universe and the body and the flow of chi through the body. Yin was the darker shape of a circle. So imagine a circle like this one back here. A circle. And in the circle, one half the circle is black and the other half is white. But you're going to draw an S pattern in the center. The S pattern you're going to create in the center. Almost like two paisley shapes. Or teardrop. Curved teardrop down and a curved teardrop up. And the curved teardrop up was usually on the left side of the circle. And it was all black. And that was called yin. Meaning feminine energy or the womb. Then the other side was white, and that's the issuance of power, outgoing energy. The black energy was receiving, the white energy was pushing out. Yin is receptive, Yang is issuing energy. We call it male and female energy. So as a male and female energy, there's two more distinctive things. You've got that S pattern. That S pattern or paisley shape that's created represents a spiraling effect in the universe. All energy spirals out. It just doesn't come in flat out. It's coiling out towards you and coiling back. You know, people say when they shoot a gun, you move backwards from the recoil because it went out and it had to come back. The kickback, that's the recoil. Recoiling, pushing you back into stance. Hopefully you got a strong stance so you don't get knocked over by the force of the energy. and then feel its power. Well, in the black shape was a white dot, and in the white shape is a black dot. The purpose for that is there's nothing in the world that is purely yin and nothing in the world that's purely yang. Both have a little bit inside of each other. So what he is saying in here, and I wanted to bring that out, was that this particular symbol, and it was used to represent the universal spirit consciousness of God, this symbol, a symbol such as yin and yang can be very powerful as a transmitting energy. And that's done when you're looking at it. Why? Because thousands upon thousands of years, people have used the symbol in the martial arts and in healing. So in the astral belt of the universe, the atmosphere, this symbol is being used all the time. And it's collecting those thoughts all the time, and people are using that symbol to radiate the chi out into the universe. So you'd have to know that. And see, that's the beauty of this. A transmitting energy. When the symbol itself is physically viewed, the symbol can be viewed as a concentration object before closing one's eyes and entering into a state of meditation. Whether hanging on a wall as a work of art or as some object of art sitting on a table or shrine of some kind, like an altar, contemplative viewing of the symbol can invoke an awakening in the unconscious, corresponding to its mystical meaning, meaning hidden meaning, even without meditating. Why? Because it's been used over and over and over. When you go to a Tai Chi school, the yin and yang symbol is there. If you go to some of the Korean martial arts school, the yin and yang symbol is utilized in there. Theirs is usually red and white, or red and yellow, or blue and red, but it's there. It just doesn't add the two dots. So he's telling you, if you were to wear this symbol like a ring, or a medallion, or a pin like a brooch, or a ring, or in a bracelet form. Some people have it tattooed on them. I've thought about having it tattooed on. It means you're picking up the energy and then you're radiating that energy out. That's how potent that it is. So he says here, let the symbol of yin and yang serve you as it has for so many down through the ages, to awaken mystically and as a harmonic representation of balancing, healing, and wholeness. The visual construction of the symbol invokes a harmonious energy, balance in the body, mind, and soul, respectively. An interplay and an harmonic synthesis of the body with the mind and the mind with the soul, as well as a visual stimulant in healing, wholeness, wellness, and in any practice of a holistic nature. Ultimately, for the universe itself to exist, there must be harmony and oneness of interplay and relation between the manifesting and the unmanifesting. So the yang is the manifestation. The unmanifesting, you don't see it yet, is the yin energy. The symbol of yin and yang corresponds to this great mystical truth. In an absolute sense, the yin and yang symbol is saying, I am in God, and God is in me. There is no truth that is any higher in understanding one's relationship between body, mind, soul, universal consciousness, spirit, or God, for upon this one great mystical truth rests the entirety of physical and human existence. Be and live in the balance of all that is yin and yang. I'll read it again. Be and live. So come to the realization and be it. And live it out in the balance of all that is yin and yang. This is beauty in itself, because we're getting an opportunity to see how these things work. Now, I just want to read a piece, just a portion. I just got this book yesterday, and I will be utilizing this book in my course of study. Now, I mentioned it said, be and live. Wait till you see what the end result of this chapter is. And I'm just going to pull out some highlights here. This is called the sacredness of silence. And I want to say that it's important to utilize silence in your life. People used to say in the occult and magical traditions, don't share all your information with people. If you're working on building up something to attract into your life, don't share it with people who don't agree with your teachings, with your studies, with your disciplines. Don't share it with people who talk too much. Keep it back to yourself. Only talk about it after it's done. After it has not only manifested in your consciousness and in the ethers around you, but don't talk about it until after it has materialized in your life. Why? Because that way people can put the negative thought onto it, negative feelings onto it. People have their own doubts and illusions as it is, and if something didn't work out for them and then you're able to work it out, they're saying just kind of cut back on the jealousy, on the negativity that you could receive at any point from anybody who is not happy with their own life. So the sacredness of silence. There's a mystical expression that goes, he who speaks more knows less, and he who speaks less knows more. If one encounters religious zealots, and this is what I'm just talking about, they are very likely to speak at great length and volume about their beliefs. A person who is advanced in spiritual awareness knows to remain silent and let the zealot ramble on. With awareness, one knows that to try to enlighten such a person at this level of awareness would do no good. Why? Because the person is locked into their belief. And we've met and we have encountered many people who say that their way is the only way. Well, not here at the Circle Grace One with me, not on any of my other pages either. Say, I don't profess to, I know something. I know from my own life's experiences. I know what I've learned and what I can execute at this point of my age and still do. And I know I'm still learning. So this is saying, if you encounter someone, now it doesn't have to be a religious zealot. That means someone who's overly excited with what they believe in as being the only way. You can meet this with somebody else who's constantly bragging about their way, name dropping everything to say that they got a connection because they want to feel what better than you. So you would just remain silent because you know at this point you couldn't share anything because they wouldn't be open to it. They say it would only end in a meaningless debate. There's nothing to be gained. Better to remain silent, being content to know that in some future lifetime, every zealot will awaken to a much greater realization of spiritual truth. All who have studied deeper forms of meditation for the purpose of what? Experiencing mystical union. Because that's what meditation is for. Mystical union with God or the creator gods do all they can to enter into the silence of the absolute. Where is that silence of the absolute? It's in you. It's in between your two hemispheres of your brain, between your front lobe and your back lobe, in your heart chakra. Only when the mind can be totally quieted can absolute presence be known. Absolute presence like the great I Am presence. As long as thinking occupies the mind, God cannot. What? God cannot exist in you. It's not that God cannot exist in you. God cannot be heard in you. You don't know from whence your information is coming from. You don't know that the seed of God or creator God or prime source has been planted inside of you. You don't realize it's there because your mind is too active. And we know in meditation you got to clear the mind. You always got to clear the mind. Always got to make way so that you can see and hear. Because what's usually going on is your ego. It says it right here. Thoughts and thinking are all activities of the false sense of personal ego identity. Even those thoughts that dwell on God are still a part of personal ego consciousness. Why? Because you're trying to get attached to it, you're trying to detach from it. You got this war going on inside your head. As long as the personal ego is active, even in the loftiest of ways, God's presence remains unknown. So what happens is we got to get to a point where we're not spending too much time trying to analyze what God is, what the mysteries of God is, or creator or prime source is. We don't need to exhaust the mind, because then you exhaust the body at the same time. So all these things have to come to be. So let's speed it up. In the sacred silence of God's universal presence, all is already known, inclusive of all souls, both in the seen physical world and in the unseen world of other dimensions, for past, present, and future coexist in one eternal moment of time. In the sacred silence of God's universal presence, all is already known, inclusive of all souls, both in the seen physical world and in the unseen world of other dimensions, for past, present, and future coexist in one eternal moment of time. In other words, they call that parallel universes. And your health, they say, can be greatly influenced by the sacred silence of God's presence. So when you're not thinking all the time, the primal energy force, called the universal energy force, can begin to take root in you and create this golden energy, the health, the healing. Indeed, the silence is golden. For it is the sacred silence of universal God presence, and so forth. So let me go right to the end. Be still then, enter the sacred silence of God's presence, and know the blessing of God's peace and love. So we have to aspire, be an aspirant, reach up for the fire of spirit. This is from Dr. Paul Leon Masters' Mystical Insights, Knowing the Unknown, the founder of the University of Metaphysics, University of Sedona, because that's where it's located now, out in Sedona. He went from the International Metaphysical Ministry, then he called it the University of Metaphysics, and then when he moved it to Sedona, he put together another university system of teachings. That's what he did, where you can get masters and bachelors and masters and doctoral degrees under his program. So I wanted to bring all of this forward, and I'm going to read excerpts from his material often, just like Reverend Ike. And if I find some other powerhouse people, I think I have some books here by Florence Scovel Shinn. If I can, I know I have some of her books, one of her books, I'm going to bring that out here so that we can have an enlivened program. Because it's essential for all of us to get this information. It is 6:44 p.m. I want to thank you for being on. We always try to make it a 2-hour show. I've also forgot I had to get back with a colleague. Something is going on out east, and I need to find out what's going on and put some prayers out for someone to be all right. And hopefully they are. And so my family out there, if you're viewing this, not saying too much, just say that I'll say Rob is all right. Rob is about 37, 38. Let me see. My niece, my niece is going to be 40, my youngest niece, and he's 2 years younger, so he's going to be 38. Let's hope that Rob is fine. Nothing is wrong with Rob, health-wise. I want to thank you for enjoying my show, coming on this show, and I also want to say here that it's been a glorious time presenting this information. Know that this is a golden opportunity to share this information and have everyone receive the energy behind it that's intended for you to utilize for yourself. If you want to be in touch with me, you can always email me at my primary email address, which is iam.circleofgrace1@yahoo.com. That's iam.circleofgrace with the number one right at the end of the E at yahoo.com. My secondary email is iam.circleofgrace1@gmail.com. You can call my Skype internet number, which is 505-349-4722. That's 505-349-4722. You can also call my other number, which is both of them that are connected to my laptop. And phone is ringing off the hook here. Connected to my laptop here. Skype number and my secondary phone number is 505-717-4722. That's 505-717-4722. And this will help you when you call that second number, 505-717-4722. There's about a 2-minute universal decree, all-purpose decree. It's read like a meditation. It's a prayer. It's an affirmation. And then you can leave your 10-digit phone number. The best time for me to reach you, please give me your first and last name. Some people just give the first name and want me to play psychic detective and guess who they are. No, just give me your whole name. It's all right. Give me your whole name. I'm the only one that has access to these phone numbers. And I could call you back from either one. And just know that give me at least 24 hours to 48 hours. Unless it's an emergency, then you should email me, because I'm checking my emails faster than the phones. All right. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back here next Thursday, which is the 26th of May. Thursday, May 26th, we'll be back here at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for at least 90 minutes. We're going to try to bring it to 2 hours if we can. We started off that way back in February with at least 2 hours. But, we have a range here. I give you an hour program, I can give you an hour and a half, or I can give you 2 hours. So look forward to being here on Ustream, www.ustream.tv/channel, CHANNEL/circle-of-grace-1. And that takes you right here so that you can watch the program live. If you want, you can get a free Ustream account, and then it allows you to come into the chat room. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you here next week, next Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain, which is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you show up on a Wednesday, I'm not here. I'm on my Blog Talk station at 4 p.m. Mountain and 6 p.m. Eastern with a 30-minute show. We're going to review Part 2, The Best You Can Be Is to Be You. We're going to talk more about that in that Blog Talk Radio, The Age of Remembrance channel, which is the Circle of Grace One in the Age of Remembrance. My grace is your grace. Thank you for being here. And until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we are alive and well in the Age of Remembrance. See you soon.